Dear students, today our topic of discussion is emphysema. It is an obstructive pulmonary disease which is characterized by loss of elasticity of the lung. Now, emphysema is a condition which is defined as irreversible enlargement of the air spaces distal to the terminal bronchiole accompanied by destruction of their valve without obvious fibrosis. Here, we should remember that enlargement of the air spaces without any destruction of their valve, that is known as overinflation. In overinflation, there is no destruction of the wall of the airways. That is the difference between emphysema and overinflation. So, now the emphysema, it causes obstruction to the airflow because of loss of lungs elastic recoil, which allows the small airways to collapse at the beginning of the expiration. So due to collapse of the small airways, due to loss of elastic recoil, this ultimately causes functional airflow obstruction despite the absence of any mechanical anatomical obstruction. So that is the cause of airway obstruction in emphysema. Now the classification of emphysema. Emphysema is classified according to the anatomical distribution of the enlarged air spaces within the pulmonary lobule. Uh, the four major types of emphysema are centriacinar, panacinar, paraseptal or distal acinar and irregular emphysema. Now, if we recall the acinar and the lobular concept, then here we can see the diagram of normal acinas, which is formed by the respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct and alveolus, and a lobule is a cluster of 3 to 5 acini along with their accompanied this respiratory bronchiole, alveolus and alveolar duct. So coming to the different types of emphysema. So, centroacinar emphysema. Here, as the name implies, the central or the proximal part of the acini, which is formed by the respiratory bronchiole, they are enlarged, whereas the distal alveoli are spared. So, both the enlarged alveoli and the normal alveoli, they coexist within the same lobule. Now, the features of centroacinar emphysema are that they are more common and more severe in the upper lobes. The wall of the emphysematous spaces often contain pigments with inflammation, and here the predisposing condition is smoking. Centroacinar emphysema is mostly occurs in heavy smokers and maybe in coal workers. Now, let us see the picture of centroacinar emphysema. So here we can see the proximal part of the acini, which is formed by the respiratory bronchiole, that is hugely dilated, whereas the distal part formed by the alveolar duct alveoli were spared. So this is the centroacinar emphysema, where the central or proximal part of the acini is enlarged. Now coming to the next type, that is panacinar emphysema. Now the panacinar emphysema, the acini are uniformly enlarged from the respiratory bronchiole to the terminal blind alveoli. So here the total acini is enlarged, and it is most commonly found in cases of alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. Now we will study in details about alpha-1 antitrypsin in the pathogenesis of emphysema. Now the features of this type of emphysema is that they are more common in the lower zone and in the anterior margin of the lung, and they are more severe in the base of the lung. Now let us see the picture of the panacinar emphysema. Here we can see that in panacinar emphysema, the entire acini is enlarged starting from the respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct and alveoli. the entire acini is enlarged. Next is distal acinar or paraseptal emphysema. The paraseptal or distal acinar emphysema, as the name implies, the distal part of the acinus, which is predominantly formed by the alveoli or alveolar sac, that is enlarged, that is predominantly affected by emphysema. And this type of emphysema is more severe in the upper half of the lung and also adjacent to the pleura or adjacent to the septa, alveolar septa or lobular connective tissue septa. And this type of emphysema is also found adjacent to the areas of fibrosis, scarring, fibrosis or scarring, and it is more severe in the upper half of the lung. And this emphysema often causes spontaneous pneumothorax in young adults. The next type is irregular emphysema. This irregular emphysema, here the acini is irregularly involved, and this is the most common form of emphysema noted in the autopsy, usually found in the adjacent to a healed inflammatory process, and it is almost invariably associated with scarring. And this type of emphysema is usually asymptomatic or clinically insignificant. Now coming to the pathogenesis of emphysema. Now in pathogenesis of emphysema, we must understand that, as we have told in the definition, that there is enlargement of the air spaces distal to the terminal bronchiole associated with destruction of their wall. Now what is the cause of this destruction of the wall of the airways? Now the most accepted theory of underlying the pathogenesis of emphysema is the protease antiprotease theory, along with the oxidant antioxidant imbalance. Now according to this protease antiprotease theory, the alveolar wall destruction, it results from an imbalance between the protease and the antiprotease in the lung. Now in the lung, the chief protease is the elastase, which is derived from the neutrophils, and also they may be derived from other cells like macrophages, mast cells, etc., bacteria, etc. And this protease or this elastase, they have the ability to to digest the lung tissue. Now this digestion is prevented by the antiprotease, which is known as alpha-1 antitrypsin. Normal condition, there is a balance between this protease and antiprotease, that is between the elastase and the alpha-1 antitrypsin. Now what is alpha-1 antitrypsin? This alpha-1 antitrypsin, it is synthesized by the liver, and it is present in the serum, tissue fluid and in macrophages, and it is the major inhibitor of the protease secreted by the neutrophils. Now the normal phenotype of alpha-1 antitrypsin is the PIMM, which is present in the 90% of the population. This is the normal phenotype of alpha-1 antitrypsin phenotype. Now the several phenotypes which are associated with alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, PIZZ is the most common, and more than 80% patients with this deficient alpha-1 antitrypsin phenotype, they develop symptomatic emphysema, which usually occurs at an earlier age and with greater severity, particularly if the individual smokes also. Now normally neutrophils, which are the source of elastase or protease in the lung, they are fewer in number in the alveolar spaces, and they are normally sequestered in the lung, and few gain entry into the alveolar space. But any stimulus that increases either the number of the leukocytes or neutrophils in the lung, or stimulate them to release their granules containing these elastase, they causes damage to the lung tissue. Now these stimulated neutrophils not only releases the elastase, but they also releases the oxygen free radical, which inhibit the alpha-1 antitrypsin activity. So when these increase number of neutrophils in the lung or they are stimulated, there is release of elastase which causes digestion of the lung tissue, as well as there is inhibition of the alpha-1 antitrypsin by the reactive oxygen species secreted by the neutrophils. The anti-protease activity is also reduced in presence of increased protease activity. So there is an imbalance between the protease and anti-protease. So emphysema is seen to result from the destructive effect of high protease activity in subjects with low anti-protease activity, like in alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. Now, next comes the role of smoking. Role of smoking in pathogenesis of emphysema. So what happens is smoking, the harmful effects of smoking, they produce raised elastase activity of the neutrophils, and they also decreases anti-elastase activity by various mechanisms. Now smokers, they have more number of neutrophils in the alveoli, perhaps due to direct chemoattractant effect of the nicotine present in the smoke. There may be also, this may be also due to activation of various inflammatory mediators. Now these neutrophils, they secrete elastases and other substances, and in smokers there is also enhanced electrolytic protease activity of the macrophages. The macrophages, they also release these elastase, and this macrophage elastase is not inhibited by the alpha-1 antitrypsin. And cigarette smoke is also rich in oxygen free radicals, that also inhibits the alpha-1 antitrypsin. And normally the lung, it contains adequate store of these antioxidants like superoxide dismutase glutathione, which counteract the action of the oxygen derived free radicals or reactive oxygen species. Normally the lung, it contains a good store of antioxidants like the superoxide dismutase glutathione, which counteracts the action of these oxygen free radicals. But in smokers, where the smoke contains a good amount of this reactive oxygen species, and also there is increased number of neutrophils in the lung which also secretes these reactive oxygen species, the store of antioxidant is depleted in smokers. So ultimately there is an oxidant-antioxidant imbalance. So protease antiprotease imbalance as well as oxidant-antioxidant imbalance. This ultimately leads to increased protease activity and increased destruction of the wall of the airways, leading to emphysema. So this is the pathogenesis of emphysema. Next, coming to the morphology of emphysema. In morphology, we have to remember that all types of emphysema do not show the same gross morphology. Grossly, the pan-acinar emphysema, it shows voluminous lung, often overlapping the heart and hiding it, particularly when the pan-acinar emphysema is well developed. Whereas the centriacinar emphysema, it is less impressive. The macroscopic feature of the centriacinar emphysema is less impressive. The lungs may not appear particularly pale or voluminous until the disease is well advanced. Generally, the upper two-thirds of the lung are more severely affected in emphysema, and in cases of paraseptal or distal acinar emphysema and irregular emphysema, which are particularly related to scarring or secondary to scarring, large apical blades of bulla are found in these two types of emphysema. And large alveoli can be seen on the cut surface of lung when we make a section of the lung tissue. So these are the gross findings. Now coming to the microscopic findings, In microscopically, there are abnormally enlarged alveoli separated by thin septa can be seen, and there is loss of attachments of the alveoli to the outer wall of the small airways, and the pores of cone, which usually communicate between the two adjacent alveoli, they are so large in emphysema that the alveolar septa appear to be floating or protruding blindly in the alveolar space. Now, when the disease is more advanced, with the progression of the disease, the abnormally enlarged air spaces, they causes compression and deformity or distortion of the air spaces, or distortion of the distortion of the bronchioles, bronchi, and the vasculature of the lung. So this is about the morphology of emphysema. Next we will proceed to the clinical course of emphysema or clinical features of emphysema. Now before proceeding to the clinical features, let us see the picture of gross features of the emphysema. Here we can see the large air spaces, enlarged air spaces in a section of lung tissue, and trapped in air within the dilated alveoli. Now, in this picture, we can see bulla or bleb, peripheral bleb or bulla, which is usually found in distal acinar and irregular emphysema. So, this is a specimen of lung showing the bulla. Now coming to the clinical features, the clinical manifestation of emphysema do not appear until at least 1/3 of the functioning pulmonary parenchyma is damaged. So the clinical features only appear after 1/3 of the functioning pulmonary parenchyma is damaged. Now dyspnea is usually the first symptom, which begins insidiously, but it is steadily progressive. In some patients, there may be cough or wheezing, which is the predominant symptom, though not common. In these cases, may be confused with the asthma. And in some patients, where there is associated chronic bronchitis is there may be cough and expectoration. But primarily, dyspnea is usually the first symptom. Now, in patients of emphysema, weight loss is very common and can be so severe that it may indicate a hidden malignancy. And classically, the appearance of the patient of emphysema is like that they are barrel chested and dyspneic with obviously prolonged expiration. They sit forward in a hunched over position and breathe through parsely. And finally, the confirmation of the diagnosis is done by spirometry or pulmonary function test, which shows that there is expiratory airflow limitation. Now, in emphysema, what happens as the patients they overventilate, so they remain well oxygenated, and they are known as pink puffers. Whereas, in contrast to emphysema, in chronic bronchitis, we'll next discuss about chronic bronchitis. In chronic bronchitis, the patients they suffer from hypoxia and hypercapnia and develop cyanosis. So they are known as blue bloater. So the patients of emphysema, they are hyperventilated, remain well oxygenated, they are pink puffers, and patients of chronic bronchitis, they are known as blue bloaters. Uh, Now coming to the causes of death in COPD or complications of COPD, these are respiratory acidosis and coma, the right-sided heart failure and congestive heart failure, which develops secondarily due to pulmonary hypertension, and massive collapse of the lung secondary to pneumothorax. So these are the complications of the both this emphysema and also occurs in chronic bronchitis. So this is the picture showing a patient of emphysema. We can see that there is massive weight loss can be seen from this picture. The patient is being puffer, barrel chested, sitting in a hunch over position, and prolonged expiration with pursed lips, and severe weight loss, which is very much obvious from this picture. So this is about emphysema. Next we will proceed to our next topic, that is chronic bronchitis. Now chronic bronchitis, this is another obstructive pulmonary disease which is defined clinically as persistent cough with sputum production for at least 3 months in at least 2 consecutive years, in the absence of any other identifiable cause. So definition of chronic bronchitis is a clinical definition which tells us that it is persistent cough with sputum production for at least 3 months in at least 2 consecutive years, in the absence of any other identifiable cause. Now coming to the pathogenesis of chronic bronchitis. In chronic bronchitis, the primary or initiating factor in the genesis of the disease is the chronic irritation of the airways by inhaled substances, particularly the tobacco smoke. So 90% of the patients of the chronic bronchitis are smokers, and also the irritation of the airways occurs by other inhaled substances like grain, cotton, silica dust, etc. Now, chronic bronchitis is 4 to 10 times more common in heavy smokers compared to non-smokers. Now, the earliest feature of the chronic bronchitis is the hypersecretion of the mucus in the larger airways associated with the hypertrophy of the submucosal glands in the trachea and bronchi. That is, in the larger airways, there is hypertrophy of the submucosal gland associated with hypersecretion of the mucus. And as chronic bronchitis persists, there is also a marked increase in the goblet cells of the smaller airways like small bronchi and bronchioles, which also leads to excessive mucus production. Ultimately, this excessive mucus production leads to airway obstruction, or mucus hypersecretion leads to airway obstruction by the mucus. It is thought that both the submucosal gland hypertrophy and increase in the number of the goblet cells, these are a protective metaplastic reaction against the tobacco smoke or other irritating substances. Now, this is the primary or the initiating event of the chronic bronchitis. The role of infection here appears to be secondary. The infection is not responsible for initiation of the disease, but it is responsible for maintaining the disease and causing acute exacerbation of the disease. Now, cigarette smoke also predisposes to infection by many ways. It interferes with the ciliary action of the respiratory epithelium, and it also causes direct damage to the airway epithelium, and it inhibits the ability of the bronchial and alveolar leukocytes to clear the bacteria. And here the both bacterial and viral infection both causes the acute exacerbation of the chronic disease. So this is about the pathogenesis of chronic bronchitis. Next, coming to the morphology of chronic bronchitis. Grossly, there is hyperemia, swelling and edema of the mucous membrane of the airways, and frequently accompanied by excessive mucinous 2-mucopurulent secretion layering the epithelial surfaces. And sometimes the secretions, they accumulate, get inspissated, and there is formation of heavy cast filling the bronchi and the bronchioles. The characteristic histological feature of chronic bronchitis are the chronic inflammation of the airways, predominantly the lymphocytic, and enlargement of the mucus secreting glands in the trachea and bronchi. And in the smaller airways, there is increase in the number of the goblet cells. Now, the increase in the this enlargement of the mucus secreting glands or in the size of the mucus glands, this can be assessed by a ratio which is known as the Reed index. Now this ratio is the this is the ratio of the thickness of the mucus gland layer to the thickness of the wall of the respiratory tree between the epithelium and the cartilage. So the increase in the thickness of the submucosal mucous glands, this can be assessed by the ratio of the thickness of the mucous gland layer to the thickness of the wall of the airways between the epithelium and the cartilage, and this ratio is known as the Reed index. Normally the Reed index, it is about zero point 0.4 in normal subject, which is much more increased in chronic bronchitis. And in addition to this, in chronic bronchitis, there may be squamous metaplasia and squamous hyperplasia, metaplasia and dysplasia in the bronchial epithelium. There is marked narrowing of the bronchioles, which caused by the goblet cell metaplasia, mucus plugging, inflammation and fibrosis. So in the larger airways, the mucous gland hypertrophy in the submucous coat is the predominant feature, whereas in the smaller airways like in bronchioles, there is goblet cell metaplasia, mucus plugging, inflammation and fibrosis, and ultimately these changes causing the narrowing of the bronchioles. Sometimes there is complete obliteration of the lumen of the bronchiole by fibrosis, which is known as bronchiolitis obliterans. So this is about the morphology of chronic bronchitis. Now coming to the clinical feature of chronic bronchitis. This is a diagram showing the mucus hypersecretion and the mucopurulent secretion causing obstruction to the filling the lumen and causing obstruction of the airways in chronic bronchitis. Next is the clinical features. We have already discussed in the definition that there is persistent cough with production of sputum. For many years, no other respiratory functional impairment occurs in these patients, but eventually dyspnea appears on exertion. Dyspnea on exertion develops with the passage of time, and if smoking is continued, is continued, then other elements of COPD appears, which includes hypercapnia, hypoxemia, and ultimately cyanosis. And the complications are that superinfection infection which leading to bronchiectasis. There may be development of pneumonia, right-sided heart failure, and bronchial metaplasia and dysplasia of the squamous epithelium. So these are the complications of chronic bronchitis. So next, this is the table showing difference between the emphysema and chronic bronchitis. As I have already told that the appearance of emphysema is pink puffer, but patients of chronic bronchitis, they are commonly known as blue bloater due to cyanosis. And the age group commonly affected by emphysema is usually 60 plus, and in chronic bronchitis usually they are 50 plus. The respiratory, the dyspnea, it is mild to moderate in emphysema, whereas in chronic bronchitis they develop after many years of the disease. And the exertional dyspnea, that is also more severe in emphysema compared to chronic bronchitis, whereas cough and sputum production, they are more prominent in chronic bronchitis than emphysema. And respiratory infection is also more common, and repeated bouts of infection occurs in chronic bronchitis, and this infection causes acute exacerbation of the disease. Whereas respiratory failure, it is found in terminal stage in emphysema but more common in chronic bronchitis. And the for pulmonary or the right-sided heart failure, that is also more common in chronic bronchitis. So this is a comparison between the two obstructive disease. Now, this is these showing the dangers of the smokers, the ill effects of smoking. So please do not smoke or quit smoking who already smokes. Have a good day.